What's happening, everyone? What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the PM Monthly Exchange. We had a bit of a different what do you want to call a different platform, a little bit of a platform change. Usually the PM Monthly Exchange are Zoom only. We've been having a great time on the Zoom. But this particular topic, I wanted to make sure that everybody could join in on. We're talking about time management. We're talking about getting better with time. So if you're here, you're seeing me. This is not like a Systems Lab Live, the weekly thing that we do, but this is the last PM Monthly Exchange for the year. The PM Monthly Exchange was really for project leaders. We wanted to go behind the scenes, and really start to pick apart the everyday work that was happening within our teams, our organizations, and our day-to-day work. So so it's been a lot of fun. We've talked about conflict resolution, we've talked about risk management, we talked about content workflows. What else we talked about? We've talked about all sorts of things. We've talked about, and so the PM Monthly Exchanges are going to move to a different platform, and more details will be on that. But yeah, we're ending that towards the year. We're ending. This is the last one of the year. That's what I'm trying to say. But tonight we're going to be talking about dun, 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 time management, but from a really, really interesting perspective. I'm excited about the perspective that I'm coming from. I like to do these types of live streams a little bit more introspective, because you're getting sort of my own personal journey into what's working, what's not, and just insights into how I have been navigating challenges and opportunities of the life, right? So, we're going to take a deep dive into vision tonight. We're going to be looking at things from a biblical perspective as well. If you're here for the very first time, and you're just like, who is this girl? How are we talking about time management and the Bible and what's going on and what? Just stay tuned. Just stay tuned, because it's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a really, really good time. I think that it is important for me to just bring also my full self to the spectrum of even the online space. Who I am offline is who I am when I present to you online. So yeah, so that's it. So just in case, for those that didn't know, if I was that I'm a believer, and I'm a Christian, believer in Jesus, and yeah, just tried and true. And what that means is that living my life in the way that God has really outlined, the way that He has instructed in the Word of God. And so it has influenced and impacted the way that I go about my work and my everyday life, and how I treat people and how I look at my life. And so we're going to be looking at what the Lord's been teaching me about time management. And we're also going to look at some practical tools and examples and some things that have been working well for me. And I just want to go deep with you all, because it's going to be a really, really a fantastic time. And I'm excited for it. I do have some visuals for those that are on YouTube and LinkedIn. It's going to be a good old time. I wouldn't say that those on Instagram that y'all need to necessarily see the visuals. You guys might be just like hanging out and doing some fun stuff. Oh man, it's good to see just Ellen in the building. Very, very good. And Jennifer J is here. She's been one of I would say my systems operations sisters in the movement of this whole world we call helping y'all stay organized, helping y'all pull it together for the team. That's what me and Jennifer J do. Day in and day out. She handles things from an operations perspective, and I take a piece of that from that project management perspective to really help our visionaries, our CEOs, our leaders really thrive in really in dynamic ways. Cool. We're gonna let me present so that we can kind of get into the nitty-gritty of something. Now, how does this work? Because I love a good Miro, y'all. It's one of my favorite tools. I just got accepted into the Miro Heroes community. Hopefully I can apply to become a, what do you call, vetted specialist or whatever they call. But I love it. I use it for everything. Okay, we know we're over here getting better with time. Um, we're going to talk about why this topic, why now, but we're also going to talk about the importance of vision and why you need vision for your life and how vision is a direct correlation to how you go about managing your time and your priorities. And then we're going to talk about some biblical principles of time management. And we're going to have some practical tips of what you can do to really reclaim your time for you to really prioritize what it is that you should be doing. The top question that I always get is how best can I organize myself? How best can I maximize my time? And really, a lot of this comes down to what it is that you know. What's the best way to say it? It comes down for you knowing your purpose and what type of vision that you have for yourself. So I did a VIP day last year with a client. I was testing out a VIP day, and it was all on goal setting and time management. We spent very little time in ClickUp. That was like the last thing that we were going to do to like organize projects and stuff. But we went through a whole exercise about time, about goal setting and time management, and how that is a direct correlation to projects. And we can get into all of that later because, again, that is something from a practical perspective. I think that we need to have a handle on. We need to have a handle on. So, as we get into it, to hear from you all what your particular challenges are, or what have you tried this year that has worked for you when it comes to the time management piece, because I think this is going to really help everyone involved. Everyone involved. It's going to help everybody involved. Um, Here's the setup of what we're looking at, why this particular topic. This really came to me. It must have, a while back, but I think this morning I was on a call this morning. Shout out to Chesco and the Win the Morning crew. Francesco, Franzizi is he does so many dynamic things. I met him through, what did I meet him through? Deeper Than the Brand and a couple other community groups, and he does a lot of different things. He's a wonderful person, wonderful man of God, a father. He has a community called Win the Morning. It started on Clubhouse. He went like 400 or 300, 500 some days, something like that, on Clubhouse every single day, Monday through Friday, talking about the wins and giving God glory. And he recently pivoted to some other things, has a mastermind group. He still does some life insurance thing, but he's really building some really cool things from the ground up. We were talking about time management, and he was like, "Hey guys, we got only 30 minutes on this call, and we gotta really make sure that we maximize our time." And so he was like calling me out. He was like, "Right, Ashley, time management." At the end of it, he recites a story about him working on this big project and how he's excited for 2024. And I thought it was excellent. And so at the end of the call, oh no, I didn't say this at the end of the call. I said it on a voice memo. If you are in a relationship with me, like true friendship, I will send you some voice memos. Blah, 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 blah. Always got something to say. So I spent it was like a 5-minute voice memo, but he and pray, listen, bless his heart for listening to the 5-minute voice memo. Shout out to Chesco for that. But here's what I said. Here's what I said to him. I was talking about the correlation between when you have vision, that directly impacts your production and directly impacts what you produce and how you spend your time. So it does a couple of things. Number one, having vision to A, prioritize, B, impacts your level of production. And the third thing it does, it helps you to allocate your time appropriately. That I'm telling you, that I got right then and there. But it makes perfect sense because it's like that has already been in the back of my head for a while now. I've been this year, I think I would probably say from April, May, probably May till now, I think the biggest thing that I have done is I've seen myself get laser focused on the vision. And this is applicable to many areas of your life. We're talking about fitness, family, we're talking about business, we're talking about your career, anything that you're working and building on, okay? Having vision. And so what that really means is let me go in a little, if I can go in a little deeper, if I can go in a little deeper. Here we go. So y'all can kind of see this unfold. The vision means the unfolding of God's plan for your life. That's what I'm talking about. The unfolding of God's plan for your life. This is what we're talking about with vision. Okay? And so I believe that one of the biggest misconceptions with time management is the fact that we want a to-do list, and the fact of the matter is that we want a app, and we want to say, all right, like, like, let me just get this app, let me get my to-do list, and let me just be on my way. I'll tell you this story. About 2 years ago, was this going into 2021? Yes, this was going into 2021. I remember doing like an assessment. I got this like a 6-month assessment thing, and it was like, where were you in business? And this was like halfway through 2020. And I did this assessment of like where I was, and I felt really bad after the assessment because it was like, Lord, nothing made sense. It was horrible. No money was really made. It was just like everything was like all over the place. I was like, Lord, I was like, what is this? And I remember setting goals, and then I remember meeting them, and then feeling a sense of emptiness. I just remember it so clearly. I was like, all right, like I got these goals. I'm going to execute on them. Yay, 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 yay. So what was interesting about that is some self-assessment, which I by the end of 2020, I was like, "Hmm, well, I did accomplish some things, but what fruit did it produce? Like, what impact did it really have? First of all, did I actually need to be doing what I needed to be doing?" And I just believe, and this is why it's so important to be in community, meaning whether it's like a professional community, a personal development community, having friends or people around you. And that at the time was I was a part of a personal professional development community, fantastic organization with some very great people I'm still friends with today. But that's when I really started to understand self-awareness, self-assessment, the disc assessment, understanding myself. And we're going to get into those. We're going to get into a little bit of that tonight too. But I was really like, you know, had to take a step back and said, well, you've accomplished X, Y, and Z. Great. Great. But did you move the needle in some of these areas? What did it actually do? So I had to literally blow up my own time management system because I really didn't have vision. I had no vision for myself. No, I had like there were goals, but they were mostly because I felt the pressure to have goals. Right? I felt the pressure because everyone else had goals. It's like you gotta have a goal, gotta have a money goal, gotta have a social media goal, you gotta have a whatever goal, you just gotta have a goal. Like have the goal. And so I would have the goal, but it didn't make any sense, right? So I said, okay, let me start to unravel and blow up my own time management system. So what do we do? What do we do? We start to read Measure What Matters. And this is about like OKRs. It's such a great book about goal setting. I did read Atomic Habits. I started looking at things from a different lens and perspective. So from Atomic Habits, from OKRs, I started mapping out some things. I started thinking through some things. I was like, oh my gosh. I said the reason why I didn't necessarily accomplish what I needed to accomplish was because no, I didn't have any vision, but two, I didn't make the linkage to the goals transforming into projects. We're going to put a pin on that for later. But let's stick with the fact that vision is what you need. That's the first step, folks. Understanding what it is that you are looking to accomplish. This could be something on a personal basis, right? This could be from your health. This could be for your family. This could be in all different types of different areas. So when we talk about vision, we're talking about the unfolding of God's plan for your life. Now, if we go, and I'm going to slide this a little bit up right here, where we look at this right here, we say two different things I want us to look at. We're going to look at well, we can look it up right here and we can share the screen. But we can look it up from Habakkuk 2:2. And we know this one pretty well. And we're just gonna share the screen on this. Habakkuk 2:2. Let's go and look. Oh, let's go right here. And when we're going to look at this, we're going to go and see from this perspective. We're going to go right here to Habakkuk 2:2. Okay. I don't know why the Bible Gateway app didn't want to let me be great. Okay. So it says right here. So it says right here. It says, the Lord answered me, write down this vision, clearly inscribe it on its tablets, so one may easily read it. It goes on to verse 3. It says, for the vision is yet for the appointed time. It testifies about the end and will not lie. So for a quick, even historical background about Habakkuk 2:2, in chapter 1, Habakkuk is basically upset with God because all this war, all this stuff is happening. And he's just like, what's going on? I thought you were the Lord. I thought you reigned. I thought X, Y, and Z. Why is this happening? Don't you see the violence? X, Y, Z. So then that's all in chapter 1. The Lord answers him once again when he says, so he says in the top of 2:1, he says, I will stand at my guard post and station myself and look out the tower. I will watch to see what he will say to me and what I should reply about my complaint. So he's complaining to the Lord. He's like, hey, this is what's going on. What's up with it? He then says, the Lord answered me and says, write this vision, clearly inscribe it on its tablets so one may easily read it. For the vision is yet for the appointed time. It testifies about the end and will not lie. Though it delays, wait for it, since it will certainly come and not be late. We have to understand too, in that moment, the Lord is saying to Habakkuk that there is a vision. So he understands the purpose of there is a vision for what he's going to do. He says, just wait. Don't freak out that all this stuff is happening because I have vision. There is an appointed time for what's going to happen. Do we understand what we're talking about? Put a 1 in the chat if we're following. Because what he was saying to them is that all this stuff is happening. I know the destruction is happening. I know the violence is there. I know all these things are going on. Yes, I do. But there is a vision that I have, which means there's a little underline, an invisible underline that says that basically there's a plan. There's a plan that's in place. That's what this really means. And so if we also isolate that scripture, not necessarily in the historical context piece of it, which most of us do, if we pull that part out, the same can be said for what we should be looking at for our own lives. Write down this vision, clearly inscribe it on its tablets so one may easily read it. So whatever you have for your life in this season, write it down. Write it down. I'm going to go to a different version of this. Let's go to Amplified Classic because that's always a goodie. Okay. Okay, Bible Gateway. Thank you for working. Okay, hold on. It says in the Amplified Classic says, and the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and engrave it so it is plainly upon tablets that everyone who passes may be able to read it easily and quickly as he hastens by. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, and it hastens it to the end of fulfillment. It will not deceive or disappoint. Though it tarry, wait earnestly for it. because it will surely come. It will not be behindhand or on its appointed day. It's important to note too that in that verse 3, it's saying that the vision is never rushed. There's an appointed time for it. So, what I will submit for your consideration, each and every one of you that are listening right now and on the replay, is that when we're considering getting better with time, that we have to take a step back from our ClickUp and our to-do lists and our Google Calendar that we're looking to color code. And I submit for your consideration, do you have vision? This is what we're talking about. Do we have vision? Because I believe, again, the vision does three things. The vision does three. Let's take it back to what I was saying at the top of the hour. When you have vision, there's a direct correlation to you understanding what your priorities are, your level of production, and how you're going to allocate your time. Let's move over to Ezra and Nehemiah. Okay. What are we doing on time? Who knows how long we're going to be here, but we're gonna get busy tonight because we got a lot to really share and get through. I'm gonna get through planning. I want to get through work ethic, all the things. Okay, Ezra and Nehemiah. This is what I'm studying this year in the season of my life. It is a fantastic book. I've read it both a few different times, both of those books. And so what we're really seeing here, let me just set the tone really quickly. What we're seeing is that we're seeing that King Cyrus, this is really about the rebuilding of the temple of Jerusalem, and it happened in three different waves. This is after a 70-year exile from Babylon. It's a great story all around. Read First and Second Kings, First and Second Chronicles, Ezra and Nehemiah. Fantastic, all of it. It's really good. But what's happening here is Ezra is a reformer. He has been charged to carry out the second wave of bringing the exiles through and rebuilding of the wall, and then Nehemiah he does the third wave of rebuilding of the wall. But the point is that there is vision inside of these chapters, and I'm gonna let's just point it. Let's just do this right here because we can do this. And I'm gonna point a few different things out for you. So I think what's so important about what's happening in Ezra and Nehemiah is that there is intentionality behind the mission, which was for the rebuilding of the house of the Lord, the rebuilding of the temple of Jerusalem, the altar. Okay. And I want to first I'll summarize really the first 3 chapters. We got the exiles that returned. Well, first is the proclamation of Cyrus. He got the word of the Lord. The people who wanted to, that their hearts were stirred to come and bring the sacrifices and the offerings and whatnot. They came, and yes, they came and they gave their offerings to the house of God. That is in Jerusalem. The exiles returned. So that's in chapter 2. In chapter 3, it's the rebuilding of the altar that happens, the rebuilding of the temple, and all of that is going on. But when that is happening, okay, there's vision for this, okay? Because again, King Cyrus got the word from God, and he said, all right, it's time to rebuild. It's time to rebuild. And he got instructions on how to do it. Okay. One of the things that vision does is that it also will give you a blueprint or rather instructions of how it should be done. So that goes back to, again, the prioritization, the production, and the allocation of time. So if Cyrus did not have the particular call from the Lord, he wouldn't have done any rebuilding of the temple. Who's following? Put a one in the chat if you're following what we're putting down here. So that's one thing. Okay. Now, a second thing I want to also point out is that in chapters 4 and 5 and 6, there was opposition. Okay. There was opposition because there are people who are looking at what was being built and saying, did you have authorization? Did you have authorization to build this temple? I want to put a little pin right here because oftentimes when you are giving a vision, and you got to be careful about how you go out and speak about your vision because not everybody should hear it. Can I get an amen? That you want to be careful about who is eavesdropping with your vision, because they can go behind your back and start to mess up what God has given you. Okay? Now, what was cool about what happened is that there was a governor that wrote to King Darius. We switched kings now. And basically said, hey, we got these folks that are rebuilding this temple, and they said that there was a decree from Cyrus. Let's look all this up. So they went back to the records. They went and looked everything up, and they said, well, he said they can rebuild the temple. Here's what's also powerful too, because you also need people in the background that can also be your cheerleaders, that can be your help. There's two prophets, Haggai and Zechariah. They prophesied to the Jews who were in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of God of Israel, who was over them, and basically told them, you need to continue to build. Make sure you have the right people behind you that are going to help push the vision forward. Okay? How many of us need a prophet in our lives? Let's go. Let's go. So that's what happened in 4, 5, and 6. They went and built the temple. And then, coincidentally enough, when I was reading this, Ezra enters in chapter 7. Ezra was a scribe, which means that he was someone that he was more on the scholarly side. He knew the Jewish law, and the law, so he was skilled in that area. He was skilled in the law of Moses, and he was there to essentially like teach the people. He was there to teach the people, and really help to bring back the like worship and some of the customs and the rituals back. Okay. And so he so he led the folks back. The folks meaning the exiles, excuse me. And he gathered them, and he led them back over. So that's essentially what was going on. He was there for reformation, for restoration, and to be able to impart the culture back and get the people back into right standing with the Lord. So if we go into Nehemiah, almost the exact same thing that was going on. Again, he got news that the wall had been been down, right? And it said to them right here, it says the remnant there in Nehemiah 1:3, and they said to me, the remnant there in the province who had survived the exile is in great trouble and shame. The wall of Jerusalem is broken and its gates are destroyed by fire. He too got a word from the Lord, went to the king, got his permission, had the vision, went and built, went to go and rebuild the wall. So we'll stop there with those stories. But I think it's really important that we look at why vision is important. the 3 things that I want us to walk away from is vision does what? Vision helps us to prioritize. Vision helps us with our production, and vision helps us with allocating our time. All right, let's rock and roll. I want to talk about inside this definition, we're going to pull back and say, all right, let's look at this definition of time management. Okay. It is a process of organizing, planning how to divide your time between activities. Inside of the chat, I'd love to know what type of activities require your time and attention. How are you organizing? How are you planning? What are those things that you're doing? How is that working? Excellent, excellent. I mean, this is everything from you allocate your time for morning walks, for exercising, for your gym classes. Allocate your time for family time, for relaxation, get your nails done, going out to dinner, hanging out with friends, taking trips. How? What does that look like? Your work time, your career time. How is that process in this particular season? Okay. Now, one of the things on this slide that I want to kind of go through and walk through is when we talk about time management, we're asking ourselves this question of how do we go about managing the time better? We spent a good amount of time talking about the importance of having vision, and then we're looking at then from the perspective of the question that's so asked. All right. So how do I organize my day? How do I make sure that I'm not overwhelmed? Okay. And most of the time, the questions that are being asked is they want the answer to be in the form of an app, right? So when we talk about the cost of the disorganization, this is really an issue of process. So we look at the definition, which is lack of proper planning and control. Okay, lack of proper planning and control. That's what we look at. Number 2, it is also the inability to plan one's activities or affairs efficiently. How many of us identify so far with any of these definitions? Number 3, disorganization is a breaking up of order of or system. Okay. So in this particular season that you all have had, where do you feel like which area do you have that there is a level of disorganization? Or where do you feel also that you feel like you've had a better handle? It could be a particular morning routine or a nighttime routine, right? It could be the fact that your the actual work hours that you have. Some people have said, hey, I'm more of a night owl, and I could be able to kind of get my schedule set where I have a particular time that I work best. All right. So definitely put into the chat what we're thinking about when we see and hear and sort to think through this aspect of the cost of disorganization. All right. Okay. So many of us, when we start thinking about, have we actually truly made an assessment of have we counted the cost of it? You see right here, and I did a poll the other day, and one of the questions that I asked is how does this aspect of disorganization make you feel? Like, what is it like, or what are your experience with it? So there's been missing deadlines, loss of money, wasted time, anxiety, confusion, stress, poor decision making, loss of sleep, losing clients, being made to look unprofessional, Those are some of the aspects of it. And usually there's something that brings somebody to a point that they say, hey, I need to get a better handle of my time because this has happened. There's losing of clients because there was not a system in place, or there's been some confusion, right? And that may be because there's been also too, when you're working with colleagues and coworkers and things like that, and there's been confusion amongst the work at hand, more than likely is because there's a lack of a process that is in place. The good thing is that this is happening everywhere. It's not uncommon. But the good thing is that I believe that more and more people are realizing and getting an understanding of why it is that we need systems in place, why it is that we need to really look at our time and look at how it's being allocated, what we're really doing. This is why you hear a lot about the future of work. You hear a lot about, async communication and reducing of meetings and things, is because people are looking for ways where they can streamline their time, that they can really cut back on things, where they can be able to regain a sense of control, regain a process where they can really start looking at their own time, and really spend it well, spend it well. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at this from the perspective of, yes, I need my time to be allocated better. I need to ensure that, I'm on top of it. But we also have to get to a point where we understand what is this cost of disorganization, because the pain of it really does not propel us until we actually face and confront the fact that we've missed deadlines, we've lost sleep, we've wasted time, there's been poor decision making because we did not have the proper processes and controls in place. How you doing, Javon? Let's see. Let's go back, or let's go forward rather. All right. So let's get into some of these other. Let's look at a little bit more about what it really looks like inside of the Bible when it talks about time management from the biblical perspective. So we talked at the top of the hour, we talked about vision. We talked about what that is, and we talked about that is really the unfolding of God's plan for your life. We talked about it from the perspective of Habakkuk 2:2. We did some examples between Ezra and Nehemiah. And now we want to actually look at some other aspects of what does the Bible say about time. This is where I believe that has been a game changer for me when I start looking at those three core areas of what it means when you first have your vision. It does these three things. That means that you have your priorities in place. That means that you understand what your level of production that you want. And then three, what it does as well is that it helps you to understand how to manage your time better. Okay. So it's priorities, production, and it's your time when you have that vision in place. So, point number one, we want to look at it from, created for purpose. Created for purpose. So similar to this aspect of a vision, when you understand purpose, that you're not just here by accident, you then have a deep understanding that everything that you do has a cost to it. Everything that you do is intentional. So let's see. Let's go to, we're going to go right here, as it says Genesis 1:26 through 28. It says right here, then God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and of the birds and of the heavens and over the livestock and all over the earth and over everything creeping that creeps on earth. So God created man in his own image, and the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. And God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth. So what does that exactly mean for you and for me? So what this means is that when we talk about the why in which we wake up every morning, and that I think that the term of the why, let's get a little deeper with that, because we could have many whys, right? We could have many whys of, for family. We could have wives for, we're doing this for our parents. We're doing this for, you know, something, so but truly when we think about the ways in which we spend our time, because we cannot get it back, you have to really think of from the perspective that God created you in his image, number one, but also created you for a purpose. He created you to be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. So the conclusion that we're coming to, meaning you're created for purpose, is that you're not created out of a whim. You're not just created just to, you're not you just to be sitting on the side of the road. Created for purpose. That then should reshape the fact in your mind to say everything that I do has purpose. So what is it in that discovery of your own life and what God has for you, in that aspect of like that vision piece that we were talking about in the beginning? Okay. And then it says, if we flip on over to go back over to Jeremiah. Oh, go back on over. Oh, here we go. If we go back on over here, we'll go back over here where it says in 29 verse 11, it says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for your welfare and not for evil, to give you a hope and a future. Okay. Oftentimes we're thinking that we have to have our very own plans for our own self, excuse me, and while you can have plans and thoughts and ideas, and I think and absolutely the Lord wants us to have all of that. What is so great is that Genesis 1:26 through 28 matches a direct correlation to Jeremiah 29:11, because God has the plan for you. So he would never create you for you not to have purpose and for you to waste time. So I think when we start to really think about what we're doing every single day, why we're doing what we're doing, we go these are some of the core principles that can really help us to really gain an understanding of what we're really doing. And let's look from a practical perspective. When we're looking at our calendar, we can really start assessing to see, is what I'm doing fruitful? Is what I'm doing beneficial? Is what I'm doing something that moves the needle? Now, does every single thing that you have, every single throughout the day, have to sit there and just move a goal or something forward? No, not necessarily. But it helps us to shape this perspective of what we think about when we're looking at our time. So it's not just a matter of like, okay, let me just go ahead and just like, I need to get better with my time. No, yes, you need a system to help you to do better with managing your time, but you also have to reframe your mindset to understand A, the vision, and B, that you are created for purpose. Number two, I think we should reiterate, and this is a really good one, about with our time, this whole thing about setting boundaries, setting boundaries. I know Javon loves this because she spoke about this a lot in her work. This aspect of setting boundaries, of resting and recharging, all a part of how we manage our time. Okay. We saw in Luke 4, 1 through 2 and 14 through 15, before a major event took place, before a major event took place, this is what happened. I'm gonna flip to this really quickly. This is 1 through 2. Let's see. And Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, returned from the Jordan and was led by the Spirit in the wilderness for 40 days, being tempted by the devil. And he ate nothing during those days. And when they were ended, he was hungry. Now, and then we go back into 14 and 15, and it says, Jesus begins his ministry, and Jesus returned in the power of the Spirit to Galilee, and a report about him went out through all of the surrounding country, and he taught in their synagogues, being glorified by all. Okay, the preparation. Okay, that whole aspect of that whole chapter of chapter 4, you know, preparation. Anytime that you have to prepare for something major, a presentation, Okay. You got to prepare for, an event. You got to prepare for the next day. All right. There are certain things that had to happen. Well, he fasted. There's one thing. There's a different type of live stream, but that was one thing that he did. And then secondly, too, he went and he also went away. He went away, right? And I think that's so important that we understand that. There were some boundaries that were set there. And then if we go into just chapter 6, 12 through 13, he says right here, it says, and uh, as he drew near to the gate of the town, behold, a man who had died was being carried out. The only son, oh no, that's 7. Oops. Let's go to, okay, 12. In those days, he went out to the mountain to pray, and all night he continued in prayer to God. And when a day came, he called his disciples and chose from them the 12, whom he named the apostles. When you have a major decision that you need to make, one of the things that you can do, resting and recharging. Manage your time that way where you can be able to understand, hey, I got a major decision I need to make. I need to maybe clear my head. I need to make room for it. If you have to make major decisions and you have a lot that you have to do each day. And please, I'll put a caveat. This is also not to say that you will not have busier days or busier seasons, right? That means that you will have a lot of back to backs, or maybe a lot of things where you're traveling or doing this or that. This doesn't mean that that's not, that you shouldn't have that. But this is going to help you shape the way we sort of look at preparation, the way we look at the work we're doing and how we're doing it, the importance of resetting, the importance of recharging, and how we're doing that. All right. Very good. Point number 3 and 4. And then we'll get to, we get 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to get to so we're going to get to some more practical tips and things. Okay. So planning is a huge thing. I think that really helps you into this aspect of what are we doing with our time? How are we actually going into the planning piece of it? It is my belief that there's a direct correlation between the goals that you set. After you have your vision, you're getting your goals in place, right? You set them in the beginning of the year, typically, right? Or maybe you have priorities or objectives. There's a lot of different philosophies of how you do your goal setting, but typically, you have your goals. I believe there's a direct correlation that you need a vehicle for your goals to be accomplished, and those are through projects. And so we know that a project that's a temporary medium or vehicle of sorts, right? That you go and that you're planning, you're organizing, you're executing, so you're accomplishing something, a particular deliverable. Maybe it's a book, an ebook, an event, something that you're doing. And planning is something that I truly believe really helps to protect your time. I think that oftentimes, especially if you are in an entrepreneurship space and a space that is highly unregulated, there are ideas everywhere. There are things that you want to do every 2 seconds. So the question is, how do you go about filtering that, right? I think that goes back to the vision piece. But I do believe that when you decide what you're going to do, we're talking about the purposeful work that you are prioritizing as a key part of your goal, the planning. So it says in Proverbs 21:5, it says the plans of the diligent lead only to plenty, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. What does that exactly mean? That means is that those that are diligent in planning the steps. This is not a full-fledged plan that has all the steps from A to Z. Like, so probably something that I would like to do, but in my newer season of my life, I understand you don't have to have the full beat by beat 122-page plan in front of you. But the plans of the diligence lead only to plenty. Have investigate what you need to do and how you need to do it. Launching a book, an event, a product, a service. What are the plans? How will you do it? Some people, it may need a day. Some people need 2 or 3. Some people need a few weeks. It all depends on the scope and the complexity of what you're working on. But everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. This just really says that if you If you just want to jump out there, you can go ahead. But what you'll come out very much empty-handed. There are certain caveats where we have seen it a lot of times, where we've seen it a lot, where I believe there's a special set of people who are able to literally jump out with just one or two kind of key things that they want to do, and they're able to build and take off. I think that's a special set of people, but I believe it's because those people have vision and they kind of know, and they can be able to see what needs to happen when. So, with that said, let's think about it when we're looking at retooling and revamping what we're doing for the rest of this quarter and into the planning of 2024. Let's look at these key priorities that you have. Let's look at the key goals that you are looking to accomplish. What is that vehicle? What is that project that you have in place? And what's needed? I think I did I think it was definitely an earlier live stream. Yeah, I think it was one in January. It's on my YouTube channel. It was called Project Activation, and it talks all about, how you actually activate a project. So it's everything from the resources to the money, to the technology, to the software, to the people, to the idea itself. What do you need? Who do you need? How are you going to do it? That's a time where you are writing, when you are phoning a friend of sorts. Number 4 is work ethic. In all hard work, it says in Proverbs 14:23, in all hard work, there is profit, but merely talking about it only brings poverty. So what does that mean? That means that if you just talk about what you're going to do, guess what? 0 plus 0 equals 0. Okay. So in all hard work, there is profit, but merely talking about it only brings poverty. That means that you have to put action behind the plans. Action behind the plans. Work ethic is super important. This does not mean that it is about working hard where you're just dragging and you're like, it's almost like walking in mud. That's not what I'm talking about. It talks about being committed to the process. Are you committed to the process? This, again, all of this, again, going back to the time management piece of this, because this is what this is about. This is all about how we're framing and shaping the way in which we're going about the planning, the organizing of our activities. Okay. The understanding of the fact that we have to plan, which helps protect our time instead of doing what? Wasting our time. Again, the direct correlation is, of course, when you're planning, you're doing the work, but you also are remaining committed to what you are doing. That's what this is about. In all hard work, there is profit. Anything that you put in a little, you get out a little. You put in a lot, you're going to get out a lot. That's what we're talking about here. Now, when we get to the last one, which is stop wasting time. Psalms 90:12 says, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. What does this mean? This means in particular that we have to be cognizant of the calendar, of our time, of what we're actually doing. If we're thinking to ourselves, we have tomorrow, I can do it next week, maybe, because maybe these are lower priority items. I'm really speaking to the things that are priority. Because remember, at the top of the hour, we talked about how having vision has a direct correlation to how we're spending our time. There's 3 things that vision does. It helps us to identify our priorities. It helps us with our level of production, and it helps us with we're allocating our time. So when we talk about teach us the number of our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Let us be mindful. Let us gain some wisdom in our days. Let us not think that we just have tomorrow, because we may not have tomorrow. Let us really be cognizant of what it is that we're looking to build. And trust me, as you guys are watching this live and also on replay, as I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself. I'm talking about what is it that I may have delayed that I need to take priority. What does all of that look like, right? Questions that people may have so far. Questions that people may have so far. I want to go through some next steps, and then I want to talk through some new things that I am also adopting right now, that I'm setting myself up for success on. So when we look at some practical time management tips, we're looking at goal setting. Phew. Oh, excuse me. Prioritizing your goals helps to account for your time. Okay, that's that piece right there. Prioritizing your goals helps you to account for your time. Okay, that's what we have to look at. So when we're looking at planning for the rest of this quarter, the beginning of Q1, all of that, all of that, knowing who you are, self-assessing will help you identify the holes of the process. I always say this example, which is I think is really powerful, which is I used to put all of these calls on my calendar. And for someone that is highly extroverted that can really go, I used to just put all these calls. I mean, I used to go from 6 a.m. waking up, going into career job mode, then going into business stuff, and just going all night, going all till 10, you know, and I would try to then at 9:30, 10 o'clock say, all right, let me go and do my superpower work. Let me go do my brain power work. And I just wasn't effective. So I had to say to myself, you're not being effective in what you're doing. You're not being effective. Self-assessing will help you identify the holes. There's a hole in the process. I'm behind in things. Things are not moving forward. Why? Because I keep piling unnecessary calls and things where it's not moving anything forward. So I had to cut that down. I said, okay, well, I need to only have calls on this day. That's all I have to do. All right. Then we also have two, is our last thing that we have is managing the work. How are we managing the actual work? What are the tools that we need? Adopting a calendar management tool, which I think many of you all should be doing. You have Google Calendar or iOS calendar. That's going to tell you where you need to be, when you need to be, what's on the calendar. I believe in having a dedicated day and time in which you sit down, you look at your calendar, you look at the projects that you have, and you say to yourself, what's my weekly task tracker for the week? What are the priorities for the week? I'm taking also something a step further after as I the project management task management tool that I use is ClickUp. So what I usually do is I have a task that says update your Airtable, like look at your calendar, update your Airtable, which has like a tracker of who I'm going to meet this week, and kind of go through, making sure that you kind of have your notes there for that. And then look at your calendar, put everything that you need task related wise inside of ClickUp. Look at your projects that you have in your projects folder, and then see what the priorities are for the week. Okay. That's the routine that I've had for the past couple of years. It works so well. What it does is that it takes the guesswork out of saying, what do I need to do today? How should I be doing it today? What if I should call somebody? It takes all of those things out. I've taken something a step further, in which I've built something out inside this platform called Coda. And that is, if you've heard of Notion, then you basically have heard of Coda, because they're like the same thing. But that is a platform and a tool where you can integrate other types of apps and things. And so there's a lot to that. So what I'm doing is building a doc that has a weekly, it's like a weekly planner. So it's a little bit different from ClickUp, because ClickUp is primarily for the managing of projects and tasks. That's what that is primarily for. But the weekly tracker is essentially something where I go and I actually write out, right, go for the week, and I go through every single area. There's like a little toggle button. I haven't finished building it out, but I will this week. And so with that, it has, all right, personal, career, business, church, what else, my other categories? And then it says, who do I need to connect with this week? And then I've actually put a decision log in there. What decisions do I need to make? I said to myself, I said, I think there's something missing, where oftentimes I'll think to myself, oh, I need to make a decision on that. I need to make a decision on that. And typically there's a decision log that I have, like for client projects, things at work, what have you. A decision log is made. You review that with your team to say, hey, we need a decision on X, Y, and Z. Lo and behold, I said I needed my own decision log. I said, let me just write down what's the decision. And I have some really great questions that I asked myself. Let me see, it's called Weekly Focus Tracker. This is what I called it. And let me just show you. There's nothing in it in the Weekly Focus Tracker, but here's just like a glimpse of, so that you can kind of practically see what I'm talking about. So this is what it is. And so I would open this up, and let's say maybe I'll do it for the week of the 30th. I'll do it for the week of the 30th. I'm going to choose the month. Okay, no, I need to put, oh no, it would be November. Well, it's kind of October. Okay, hold on. Let me just let me just go back to let's just set this up for November. Okay, let's put this right here. Can you do that? No, maybe not. Okay, we'll just put this right here. And then you open up the notes. Oh, I think you're supposed to, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do. Change the column type. Oh, okay. Let me do this. I know what it's doing. It is delete. Oh, I need to delete all of these rows because it's just going for the old one. Okay, so I'm going to add this new row here. Here we go. It says it right here. So it goes and it says week of, and it kind of goes into what's the focus of the week. It goes right here, where is God leading you? And then that goes into, okay, you go to personal. Wait, where's the little toggle thing? My toggle? I thought it was supposed to be a toggle. Expand. Okay. Collapsible list. So then you can go right here. And then I think collapses. Okay, disable collapsing. Then going back here. Okay. So then you go and you put in what each of those things are. Who do we need to connect with? And then right here is a decision log, and you can add in what decisions need to be made for the week. So this is something new. I think this is going to be really cool to really start to really start to do this. And then this is, I'm going to start this too, where this is going to be a PD tracker as well, personal development tracker. Again, this is blank as well. What else is right here? Is this a decision log? Oh, personal decisions. Same thing right here. This is where this is going to be a decision log, summary of key decisions that need to be made. Again, all of this will really help to understand, number one, where do I need to spend my time? Where do I need to dedicate my energy to? And that really has a direct correlation between the priorities, what's going to be my level of production, and then how to allocate my time. So those are some of the new things that are also being developed and being put in place. Well, y'all, this is time. We're in OT mode. Thank you all for your time and your attention. We'll be back for Systems Lab Live on November 6th. Save the date. We'll have a new graphic out soon, but we will be picking things back up, really talking a lot over these next few weeks through December. We are going to really be exploring, get some good reports that we're going to be looking at. But we're going to be really exploring and really diving in deeply about some of the skills and some of the trends and things of what it's happening as a digital PM. So it's going to be quite exciting. Tune in, share this live stream with a few people. This will be left up on the YouTube channel. If you are a project leader of sorts, you are building the things behind the scenes from scratch, figuring it all out, whether you're in corporate or in the entrepreneurship space, please text hashtag PM Huddle to 626-722-5444 for weekly text messages, tips, and opportunities in terms of late breaking news and things that might be happening. Definitely text any questions that you have as well. And that is about it. That is about it. So we thank you all for tuning in to this live stream, and we will see you all in another couple of weeks. Bye.